Welcome back to another edition of The Changemaker, the Art of Building Better Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Deke Copenhaver. Thank you for joining us. And my guest today is, and I love this, Justin, is Justin Wheelon. He's a director, producer, actor, Emmy Award-winner. And so that's pretty amazing. Not many people can say that.
Welcome to the Changemaker podcast, hosted by Deke Copenhaver. Deke is the author of The Changemaker, a Forbes publishing book that has reached #1 on Amazon on multiple occasions and in multiple categories like management skills and total quality management. During this podcast, Deke interviews exceptional change-making leaders. Deke currently operates Copenhaver Consulting, where he helps local governments and other public organizations maximize their potential. He's also a sought-after public speaker. We hope that the Changemaker has an impact on you today and that you find takeaways that make you a better leader in your life. Now, here's Deke.
And you're, 34 years old?
Yes, yeah.
I did my research.
Nice, yeah.
But so you were born in Augusta, Georgia. Mm-hmm. You grew up in Aiken, South Carolina, and have obviously had success in the film industry, and we'll get a little bit into that and some of the logistics of that. But for our listeners, just tell them, how did you get interested in the film industry? Because I know that it's probably a situation where not everybody's parents, when you say, this is what I want to do for a living, say, hey, that sounds great.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, I graduated high school in 2005, which doesn't sound like that long ago. I mean, it's 15, 16 years now, which is crazy, honestly. But even back then, the film industry was something that, was in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. Atlanta was not what it is today. So, I was an assistant golf pro in Columbia because that's what I thought I wanted to do all through high school. I was on the golf team, and we were really good, all region, all state, all that stuff. I mean, I was a good local high school golfer, and I thought that could translate into national or regional or something. Yeah. Spoiler, it did not, but I had to try it. So anyway, I was working as an assistant pro in a private course in Columbia, trying to play some pro tournaments and stuff and just getting clobbered. But then they were doing a movie in town. It was called Death Sentence, which was actually a really great movie. It just opened up against some juggernaut. I can't remember, like the Hunger Games or something. I don't remember, but it didn't do well at the box office at all because it opened up against a big hitter. But anyway, I went out onto that set, and it was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. I'd never acted in high school. I mean, other than some little church stuff, which, barely counts. I'd never had any experience with that stuff. But then once I got on that set, I was just hooked from the moment I walked on it. Between all the tractor trailers and getting to talk with Kevin Bacon and Aisha Tyler and John Goodman, and James Wan was directing, who at the time was kind of a small-time guy. Now he's A-list. He did the Saw movies. He did some Fast and the Furious. He did Aquaman. He did The Conjuring and Insidious. I mean, he's big time now. But I just became hooked. Saw how they did everything. Ate lunch, ate snacks, watched everything, watched Kevin Bacon act. I mean, it was just so. Then I called my parents and said, hey, this is what I want to do with my life.
And what was the reaction there?
Yeah, they said, please go to college. Honest, that's what they said. They said, please, go to college. And so they said, we'll pay for it. You got to go. And if you make the grades and stay in it, we'll cover it. And I was very fortunate that way. I know a lot of people don't have it that good. And so I enrolled and did well, got a history degree. Never used it, but, I mean, they didn't know what they didn't know. Neither did I. We didn't know it would turn into something really great.
Yeah.
Probably to their credit, it did sound as ridiculous as it was at the time. You know, I mean, like I said, I had no past history in doing any of that, so there was no indication that it would go well.
It's interesting. I've worked on a couple movies. Forces of Nature with Ben Affleck and Sandra Bullock when I was living there. I was living in Beaufort, South Carolina, but got to be really good friends with who I hope will be a future guest on the show, Casey Hadenfield. He's the first assistant director, and he had just broken into the industry at a mailroom. He's done all the Transformer movies now, The Road to Perdition, just all these films. But he said, well, if you want to get into the industry, I'll be your mentor. And so at that point, I was dating my now wife, and so I was like, Lisa, I'm thinking about, going to Hollywood. And she said, if you do that, you better put a ring on my finger first. So long story short, I didn't do that, but I've always been fascinated by the movie industry because I think some people, my preconceived notion is, all these sets are going to be totally wild and you're going to have, people out of control, but it's a business.
Oh, they're working. Yeah. I mean, they work hard too. Like there's a thing in the movie industry where these crew members, I know the directors specifically, but a lot of them, they get sick after a shoot because they've been going for, 50, 60, 90 days plus 12, 14 hours a day. They're eating good food, but they're kind of eating irregular. They're sleeping less. They're working hard. I mean, I've got this Whoop band, so even I can tell like a strain and sleep and all this. And
it's interesting, and I've just been fascinated by watching the impacts of the pandemic. But on the entertainment industry, I have a lot of local and national musician friends, but just in the entertainment industry, to have everything just really shut down, and what did that look like for you? Because as you say, I mean, these are hardworking people that most of them, the people working on movie sets, aren't making the high dollars. So to have your livelihood go away, I had to have been difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very big deal. I mean, locally, I mean, partners and an owner at Oak Film Co. So I mean, it impacted us, of course, but just the business as a whole, it impacted a ton because a lot of those people, if they're not working, they're not getting money. I mean, they're not, for every, Robert Downey Jr. and stuff like that, there's 1,000 PAs that, have to get that paycheck. So, I mean, the industry, it rocked them hard because, well, yeah, I mean, a lot of them weren't eligible for like the PPP stuff, like businesses were, because they were all independent contractors, so they had to kind of figure that part out. Us, locally with Oak Film Co., we probably from about, March, I think about March is when kind of the whole country shut it down a little bit, and then all the way till like, maybe even June or something. I mean, we worked from home. I mean, we do a lot of corporate commercial stuff like that work, and what I told somebody is, hey, we work for businesses, and if those businesses aren't open, they're not, I mean, they can't market, they can't market anything. So we kind of got shut down too, but luckily we got a little bit of PPP money just to cover our guys in the interim, and we made it through. But yeah, I mean, it's scary times when a lot of those thousands of people just had no paycheck. Yeah. I mean, in fact, I had a lot of friends in New York City. They all kind of had to flee because those rents are so high. And, a lot of them, came back around here. And so they had to leave.
Well, it's interesting, and you touched on it earlier, that I think there's a preconceived notion that, if you want to be in the film business, you have to live in LA or New York. And you've sort of proven that not to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize they do more in Atlanta now than Los Angeles County or New York. I mean, Atlanta is, I should say Georgia as a whole. Atlanta's the hub, but Savannah, I mean, even now Augusta's getting the Clint Eastwoods and the Mel Gibson stuff and all that. So, but Georgia, I think they do about 30% back. So, you have to spend over $500,000 to qualify. But, that's why Marvel's doing all their stuff here, because, if they're going to spend $500 million on an Avengers movie, they want to check for 30% of that back. So it's actually really shifted a lot since even when I grew up, because that that preconceived notion was Hollywood's thousands of miles away, and that's for them, that's not for us, you know, kind of thing. Now it is right at our doorstep, and which is awesome. It's awesome for the Southeast. It's great for Georgia. South Carolina's really kind of backwards in how they're doing their tax stuff. So South Carolina's getting virtually nothing. So I hope they can really take a page out of Georgia's book. But
yeah,
Georgia's doing it right.
Well, I talk about the fact that change-making leadership means a willingness to take a risk, which you obviously did to start your career. But I also think it's cross-generational. So you've started, you're founder and president of the Southern Cities Institute. So please talk a little about that. That's pretty amazing what you're doing for the youth of our community.
Yeah, so part of my story, and it just kind of stemmed out of just this need or this desire in my heart to help people out who were kind of like me. And what I mean by that is, when I was growing up, I mean, even before high school, you know, elementary, middle school, all that stuff, all that film stuff was so foreign. I mean, even more foreign than it was. I mean, you're talking late 90s and early 2000s. That was really out of this kind of Southeast region. And so anyway, I just never got exposed to it in any capacity. Also, we didn't have the DSLRs, we didn't have the iPhones with the great cameras. So just by virtue of not having those kind of resources available, YouTube wasn't as big, you know, with all the DIY stuff. So anyway, just by all these things, I just never got exposed to the film industry. And so after being on that set of Death Sentence, and my eyes just opened up, you know, I just fell in love with this process, this world. And so while I was pursuing all that as hard as I could, I just kept thinking, man, you know, there's going to be kids in Aiken that, you know, are never going to figure out if that's a passion of theirs. So I knew I wanted to do something. I didn't know what, you know, I didn't have any background in 501c3 stuff or business at all, really, but I just kept thinking I want to do something, and I didn't have a lot of money. I had some friends with some stuff, and I knew there was resources available. So anyway, in fact, like 2012, I started to jot down ideas and names, and I think it took several years before it came to fruition. But I finally started Southern City, and what it is it's the Southern City Institute, and we put on the International Southern City Film Festival. But what it is, it's really just, we've got multiple filmmaking kits, and we've loaned them out to teachers and schools, and they're housed at USC Aiken right now, and teachers can go check those out. And we put on various summer camps and classes and workshops. And really, our mission is just to give these kids exposure to that world. I don't expect all of them to want to pursue it forever, but, you know, if they get that exposure and they figure out that's something they like, we can continue working with them, or they can just look at, you know, college programs or something like that. But I just kept thinking it was a real shame, as culturally advanced as Aiken and Augusta is in so many ways with the arts. Filmmaking just wasn't really a thing. And so, you know, just as most businesses go, I mean, I saw a need, and I wanted to provide for that. But like I said, we're 501c3, so, you know, we just want to fulfill our mission and vision and give all the kids we can, and adults. I say kids a lot, but we do adult things too. So that's really kind of why we exist, to give them that exposure, let them see if that's something they like, and then we can. Augusta actually has a lot more resources than Aiken right now, with the film office and Film Augusta and all those fun things. So people do want to continue down that path. There's a lot of things for them, but just that initial exposure had to happen, because, you know, you can't just walk onto a movie set and say, I'd like to check it out. You know, the whole business is like a catch-22. It's like you can't get in it because you don't have any experience, and you can't get experience because you can't get in it. And so we just had to figure out a way to get people exposed in some form or fashion.
Well, it's interesting. So many people, when they think Augusta, they think golf, and you and I are both golfers. But when you talk about the strength of our arts and cultural community, we're not just the home to the Masters, we're the home to James Brown, 2/3 of Lady Antebellum, and Charles Kelly and Dave Haywood, and Jesse Norman, the youngest ever Kennedy Center honoree, and a legend in the world of opera and just in the world of music in general. Sharon Jones is from across the other side of the river. But I think that's really, sometimes when I talk to people about economic development, and local governments can look and say, well, the first thing that we're going to cut is arts and culture. But arts and culture contribute to a thriving economy. So what you're doing through the film festival in Aiken, it's not just a nice, warm, fuzzy thing. It's putting money to the bottom line of the city.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's relatively new in the scope of organizations and stuff. But, I mean, you look at similar organizations, be it the Charleston Film Festival or Savannah Film Festival or Atlanta Film Festival or, even Greenville's got a great one. I mean, they do. I mean, all those people are coming in. They're doing hotels. They're going out to eat every night. I mean, they're shopping downtown. Someone has to cater these parties. I mean, we've got to rent the venues. I mean, it costs a lot of money to put it on. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that benefit from having these things. And I agree with you. I think it's a shame. I don't quite get how, I guess when things get tight, stuff has to be cut at some point. I guess you can never just not cut something when you need to. But it's so crazy. The arts and culture definitely seems like always the first to go. And it's like, even then, during the pandemic, what did everybody do? I mean, everybody watched stuff. The content is through the roof.
Oh my gosh!
It's like you some of these people, they hate on this industry a little bit, and then they're home every night watching Yellowstone and all these amazing programs.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, one of the attributes I say of a change-making leader is creativity, and I talk a lot about. I grew up writing and painting, and so having an arts-based education. Really, during my time in office with whatever I do, with what I'm doing with my podcast now or writing my book, I think that exposure to the arts teaches you critical thinking. And I think particularly just from my point of view, having been in politics for a number of years, so often in politics, it's either black or white, Correct. Either my way or your way. But artists think critically and creatively about how to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Which we could use a lot more of that in politics as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there has to be a balance, and even just the first thing that comes to my mind is Oak Film Co. My partner, Chris Hitchcock, he's a business guru, so he's all numbers and business and sales, and that is so needed because I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm doing the creative stuff and the fun stuff and the trying to make the videos and stuff. But I think exactly what you're saying is you need the creativity, of course, as well as needing the the business minds and the process people. I mean, so it has to be a balance. Is really what it. If you lose one or the other, I mean, I think things can get squirrely, but it's got to be a balance. So you've got to have that creativity mixed in with the kind of do's and don'ts. Yeah,
and that's something that I'm fascinated once again by your industry. I'm fascinated by a lot of things in a lot of different industries. But I did not realize until I did Forces of Nature what a first assistant director does. And so, so my friend Casey said, okay, the producer's the money man, the director's the creative vision, and the first AD is the one that keeps it all together.
Yeah, there's a big joke that they're kind of the biggest jerks on set. Not by their personality, but their job is designed to keep things moving. So, when the actors or directors want to do more takes, but they're losing the light and they still have to get a few more shots in, I mean, those ADs have to say, let's go. We have to go now. You can't do any more. Hurry up. You got to be, I mean, they've got to keep that thing on schedule because on indie stuff, it's slightly different. But when you start talking about these Avengers level stuff and if they get 2 days behind and each day cost, $7 million or $30 million. I mean, they don't want to be 4 days behind schedule 2 weeks in and they're $60 million over budget, So those ADs, they've got to keep things going, and just by virtue, they can't let everyone do everything they want to do, because we'd keep going till we get that perfect shot.
No, and I'll tell you an experience I had with my friend Casey, and this has been 20 plus years ago, but my wife and I were staying with him in San Francisco. He now lives in Austin, Texas, but he has done a lot of work with Michael Bay, Transformers, all that, but they were trying to put the deal together for Pearl Harbor. Nice. And he had been on the phone with, I think, Michael Bay, and he's like, man, I can't believe this. We're only $50 million off on this project. And I'm like, only $50 million? I'm like, maybe in your world that's not a lot, but in my world, $50 million is $50 million.
Yeah, well, I guess you got to look at it percentage. If they're spending $400 million on something and they're only 10%, 8% off, in their world, they're close. But yeah, I agree.
Well, tell me, because as I mentioned at the outset, not everybody can say they're an Emmy winner.
Yeah.
How did the Emmy come about, and what was it for?
Yeah, so I've actually got 11 at this point.
11 Emmys.
Well, the Emmy thing, okay, so let me tell you about the Emmy thing, because it can be confusing, and I'll tell you why I get that there's some confusion out there. So the 4 big entertainment awards are the Oscars, Grammys, Tonys, Emmys. Those are kind of the big 4. There's only one Oscars each year. There's only one Grammys. There's only one Tonys, but there's like 9 different Emmys. Mm-hmm. It is very confusing. I didn't know this till I got in this world, but there's the primetime Emmys is what everyone thinks about because it's on TV, and that's like the Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, and that's what they're winning. There is the news Emmys, there's sports Emmys, there's technical Emmys, there's international Emmys, there's the regional Emmys, there is there's 2 others. And so and what I've gotten is the regional Emmys, and that consists of everybody in South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and really what that means is it just means that the content we've made didn't air to over 50% of the country. If it airs to over 50% of the country, then it goes to the national Emmys. Mm-hmm. If it's under 50, then it goes to your particular region. And this region is, a friend of mine was the past president, and he told me the southeast region is one of the toughest because LA actually has a couple different within it, so it's not the full thing, and New York is pretty tough. But when you start talking about all of Georgia and South Carolina and Mississippi and Alabama, it is stacked. So it's been great. We've won for everything from we've made PSAs, so many things, commercials. We've won for audio, lighting, all kinds of. I won. One of my most proud ones I'd been trying to win for years was the Best Director one, and tried and got nominated a few times, didn't win, and the ceremony is still exactly like you see on TV. You're in a big ballroom, you're in a tuxedo, you've walked the red carpet, they bring you dinner, they've got drinks, and they come out on stage and they've got a sealed envelope, and they say, and the nominees are, and they play the video package, and then they say, and the Emmy goes to, and they call out a name. And here's a funny story too, just a side story. So my very first year I ever got nominated, I think 2014 or something like that, I had 4 nominations, and all my friends, they were so supportive and so excited, and they said, well, you're going to win at least one. You got 4 chances, you're going to win at least one. And so me and my wife go, and we go with some of the other nominees, and we're sitting there, and they come out, and the Emmy goes to, and I don't get the first one, and they say, and the Emmy goes to, and I don't get the second, and I don't get the third, and I'm kind of freaking out, but I'm thinking, all right, this must be it. So they come out, and the Emmy goes to, and I don't win. And I was crushed. I was crushed. because everyone being supportive and nice, they just built it up in my mind that I was going to win.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And so I thought I was going to come home with a trophy and I was going to be an Emmy Award winner for life. And none of that happened. And so we even skipped the after parties and I was just kind of just down. And so anyway, after licking my wounds for a week or so, I just said, all right, I'm going to make it my mission in life to get back there. And I said, every single thing I make for the next year is going to be, I'm going to do it as hard as I can, as good as I can to get back, to earn my way back there and get an Emmy. Because I just wanted that title. I wanted the statue on my mantle. I mean, it's just like you see on TV.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same trophy, you see on every other Emmy. But so anyway, I get 6 nominations the next year. And everyone, again, they say, well, 6, you're bound to win at least 1. And so we go, tux, dress, everything. They come out. I don't win the first one. I don't win the second one. I don't win the third one. I don't win the fourth one. And here I am. I'm about to throw up. I'm sitting there. I'm an 8. I'm 0 for 8. Seriously, I'm 0 for 8. And I'm thinking, oh, my gosh. And then so they come out, and then they say, and the Emmy Award goes to Justin Wheelon. And so finally, I go on stage. And like I said, you've seen it before. I made sure to thank my wife, thank whoever, whatever. You go backstage, you sign for it, you take some pictures. They've got champagne, a big party. Other winners are back there, and obviously everyone's just as happy as they've ever been backstage. And so anyway, I do all this stuff you have to do. There's a lot of rules that come with it. It's really interesting, actually. But
you probably can't sell your Emmy, can you?
You can't sell. You don't even own it.
Oh, really?
No, you don't own it. It's pretty much still owned by them, and it's just kind of leased in perpetuity. It's kind of like the green jacket, meaning, it's yours, but you can't sell it because you don't own it. And there's actually, they come up for auction every now and then, and the National Academy of Arts and Sciences can pretty much just get those back.
Yeah.
Anyway, I go back out, and I'm just ecstatic. I'm on cloud 9, and I had forgotten about the whole other category. And so as I'm walking to my table to see my wife and everything, they say, and the Emmy goes to Justin Wheelon. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. So we go up and do it again, and then I'm double fisting the rest of the night, and then
oh man.
Yep. And then so by this point I've won 11, and it's still crazy exciting. Obviously, not quite like that first one, but it's still unbelievable.
So I talk a little bit about too that leadership knows no age. Yeah. And I think that there can be an age bias in a lot of different industries, maybe not so much in the film industry, but you started the film festival when you were 28, I believe?
Yeah, I guess around 50, I'm trying to think when it was established. Like I said, I had been toying with that idea for 4 or 5 years, and then I had to go through the legal thing. It takes forever to set up a 501c3, and it takes 2 seconds to set up a nonprofit, but then you have to apply for all the other stuff. So, yeah, something around there. That sounds about right.
Well, that's to me though. That's a great example because I hear people in a lot of different fields. Well, I can't really hit success because I'm 20-something years old. But how old were you when you won your first Emmy?
I guess I was 15. I wasn't 15. It was 2015. So that was
So you were in your 20s.
Yeah.
Well, a young guy from Aiken does good, and even after and that's another point that I make is, you learn more from failure than you do from success.
For sure.
But what an awesome story to have gone 0 for 8 before you got the first one, and then to get 2 in a row.
Yeah. It's been great. We won 4 last year, which is the most we've won in a year, and those pictures are pretty comical because I'm told, they're about to fall over, and it was great. This year we got nominated for 9 this year, which is the most we've ever got nominated for in a single year. So, you never know. We literally could win 0 or we could win 9. I don't think that'll happen, but I'd be ecstatic if we can just get 2, 3, 4. I don't know.
Well, you already have 11.
Yeah.
So where do you keep those Emmys?
They're in my office at home. They're on a bookshelf. So I keep thinking about. One of my buddies, he's got a bunch, and he's got a really cool display. So I'm trying to copy his, and so we'll see. They're fun. When people come over, they like to hold them and take some selfies with them.
I'm sure. I'm positive of that. So out of all the recognizable names that you've worked with through the years, who would be some that you have enjoyed the most working with?
I tell you what, I got to do a movie called Nailed. Actually, they changed the name before it came out. They always do that. I think it's called Accidental Love now, but I got to play a part and had some scenes with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an amazing experience because I was already a huge fan of Jake Gyllenhaal. And
Oscar winner Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. I don't even know if he's won an Oscar.
Did he win one for Brokeback Mountain? Or?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's won one.
Well, he deserves one.
He's great. He's fantastic. I know Heath Ledger got his for the Joker, but within that, I had a nice part, so I got to be there multiple days. I got special access. It was more than an extra part. Those are a lot of fun, but you're just kind of a set dressing sometimes. So.
Mm-hmm.
This one I'd sit around and I talked to Jake, and Jessica Biel was in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so Justin Timberlake came to visit her, so we got to talk to him. Jake and Reese Witherspoon were dating, so Reese Witherspoon would come to the set, and I would get to talk to her. But what's great is David O. Russell was directing.
Mm-hmm.
And David O. Russell, if you don't know about his story, it is wild. I won't go through the whole thing, but basically he's the one George Clooney knocked out during Three Kings and told everybody never to work with him. And if you Google David O. Russell on YouTube or whatever, Google him, you'll see the most epic freak out ever when he was doing I Heart Huckabees.
Uh-huh.
It is unbelievable. He's got this huge temper, and he'll fly off the handle. And everyone said that going in. They said, "Oh, watch out for David O. Russell." But I'm like, I didn't have a big enough part to warrant ever him getting mad at me. It was fun. He did get to direct me and tell me how to do things and why I'm doing them, because I was a Q. I had to do my part, and then Jessica Biel would do her part as soon as I'm done with mine. So it was a fun experience, but he did freak out. He freaked out on set. In fact, James Caan was in the movie, and James Caan was supposed to choke on like something, and so we're filming in this church, and James Caan, he's like, he wasn't making any noise, and so David O. Russell says, "Well, you need to choke," and James Caan's like, "I am choking." He said, "No, like cough and choke," and James Caan said, "Well, if I'm choking, there's no air coming through." And anyway, they're getting into this fight and they're arguing, and David's like, "Well, that's how I want it. Like, do it." So James Caan quit.
Oh.
The next day, James Brolin was in there. The whole crew quit because they didn't get paid on time. So it was like this thing where if they didn't get paid by like 3 p.m. or something, then the union said they had to quit. And so we were coming up, and everyone's looking, and the actors weren't in that kind of deal, so we didn't know what was going to happen. And then finally 3 o'clock happens, and they shut it down, and David O. Russell, he was ticked, and he's yelling at this little girl. It was wild anyway. But that was the most fun experience, was getting to work with Jake Gyllenhaal and those people. But through this, I've gotten to meet, I got to direct Bill Murray one time.
Really?
Yeah, and that was unbelievable because he's a legend, and so that was fun. That's a wild story too, if you want to hear it. But I've gotten to meet everyone from Obama and Bill Clinton and Trump and all kinds of people. So, yeah. And
all this being a guy out of tiny Aiken, South Carolina.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that's come out of Aiken, Augusta. I think a lot of people don't even realize.
Yeah.
You look at the Lawrence Fishburnes and Hulk Hogan's, and shoot, there's Josh Kelly and Charles and all.
Yeah.
There's tons of there's tons of people you just don't realize it unless you know.
And you played golf in high school with Kevin Kisner in Aiken.
Yeah, he was unbelievable back then too. I mean, just state champion, won all the junior tournaments. I mean, I remember, I was about to tell you a story, and then I realized I don't know if I can tell that one. But he's exactly who you see. He's he's down to earth. He doesn't put on for cameras. He's a nice, generous, humble guy.
Yeah. Well, and that's generally people that I've met in the entertainment industry, and professional athletes and a lot of famous people. It's like so many of them are so grounded.
Yeah.
It's just actually refreshing. And I'm sure, as you said, with your friend the director on that shoot, and not everybody is, but there are a lot of good people out there that are just, they view it as their job and their passion.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is. I mean, they're just people. And obviously some people are different. I mean, I can tell you get around it's just weird when you only see someone 2D on screen, 3D, whatever. But when you only see them on screen, and then you're standing in front of them. I got invited to, they were having a Field of Dreams 25th reunion in Iowa on the field, and I got invited to play. And so I went up there, and it's one of those things I had no business being at. Like, I mean, they were A-listers, and I mean, it was awkward. I wasn't going to turn it down, but it was even awkward for me when they're like, well, here's Papa John, Kevin Costner, Justin Wheelon, this guy, and it's like, oh my gosh. But say all that to say, I mean, once you're just standing there talking, I was sitting there talking to Kevin Costner, and it was just me and him, and he was talking, and then I think he was like mid-sentence, and I was like, Robin Hood. I was like, I forgot you did Robin Hood. And he's like, yeah. But I just blurted, I'm just like, Robin Hood. Like, I just started thinking about all the things, and it's crazy when you start seeing those people in person. It's just bizarre.
I always would tell people that I've led the most Forrest Gump lifestyle, that it's like, what am I doing in this situation? But I've met Tiger Woods out at the Masters.
He's my bucket list guy. Yeah. He's my number one guy I've never met.
Well, it was interesting. So I had dropped off my father-in-law, and I had parked, and I was about to park, but he was out there, and there was no entourage. And so this was when I was still mayor of Augusta. But so I asked the guard, I'm like, is it okay if I welcome him to Augusta? So I went up and shook his hand and said, Mr. Woods, welcome back to Augusta. Glad you're here. Have a great tournament. So then as I was walking in, the guard caught me, and he's like, you just put the biggest smile on his face. He thought that was the neatest thing. And I'm like, I made Tiger Woods smile? But you and I are both golfers. It's such a tragedy to see. I mean, if anybody can make it back, but seeing Phil win the PGA, I'm like, Tiger was thinking Tiger could have won another one, and now it's just, that's a long road to hoe.
I don't think he'll be back. Trust me, I want it more than anything. I love Tiger. I just, the signals he's sending out just seem not good. He's talking about, people were asking about the Phil thing and stuff, and he said, look, I'm just trying to walk.
Yeah.
I'm like, geez. So, I mean, I hate it, because it's so much more fun when he's in the field.
Oh, yeah.
Even when they talk, I mean, you look at even Masters ticket prices between him just maybe coming, not coming. I mean, nobody moves the needle like him, but there's a ton of great stars coming up behind him, and I love what Phil did too, but man, I hope Tiger's not done. It's
just disappointing to see it go down in that fashion.
Oh, I know. I hate it.
Well, and you think about it, we obviously talk about leadership on this podcast, but just how amazing he was, and how innovative he was, and just what he did at the beginning of his career, and he changed everything. He changed the game. But just back to you, you are a leader in your field. You're here in Aiken, and it's just, I wanted people to know more about you, and to realize that you don't have to go to Hollywood, but as well to share with kids that there are opportunities out there. So I would ask you, Justin, who would be your role model from a leadership position?
God, there's so. I really like Marcus Lemonis a lot. Do you know who he is?
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he's got a show on CNBC or whatever called The Prophet or something. He's got a lot of books, and he's just fascinating in his process and how he treats people, how he operates, his honesty and integrity. I mean, I really like him. Even just within my own life, there's people I look up to, but yeah, I like Marcus Lemonis a lot.
Well, and you just touch on two of the key traits of a good leader: honesty and integrity. And that's one of the things I've said going into the pandemic, is that if people didn't trust your leadership going into the pandemic, what from a business, political, or other perspective, then good luck building trust in the pandemic. So I do, though, really have hope for the future with the younger generation of leaders, because my father flew B-17 bombers in World War II. The greatest generation was the greatest generation because they had to be. And I think this generation that's coming up now, having gone through the pandemic, I think we could see the next great generation of leaders.
I think they're a lot less. I think kids today, well, it's a double-edged sword. I was about to say, I think a lot of them are a lot less scared of boundaries.
Yep.
Also, it seems a lot of them are a lot more anxious and scared of certain things. I think social media is, I use it, and I try to use it for what it's designed for, to keep up with people and stuff.
Yeah.
But I just think it's probably the worst thing that's ever happened to.
Yeah, I use it, to promote the book, and when we get the podcast and everything. So it's almost a necessary evil.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
you got to be on it. You got to use it.
You got to be on it. I mean,
you got to go to whether it's marketing a company, a product, or something. You got to go there. But even just yourself. I mean, I've toyed with the idea of getting rid of it just for not mental health. I'm pretty luckily, thank God, okay in that department, I think. But even just getting rid of it, not feeling the pressure to post and look cool and all that stuff. But then I've had friends who did delete it, and I hate to even admit this, but sometimes it takes me a long time before I realize they're off of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, I haven't heard from that guy in a year. Did he die?
Yeah.
And I text him, and he's like, no, I just got off social media. And I thought he's dead.
Yeah. I shut it. I watched The Social Dilemma and shut mine down for about 3 months, but then had to bring it back. But what I like to do, and I think it's great to have those boundaries, is that when my wife and I go on vacation, I just put my phone in a safe, and I'm like, I'll check it. Because I think we all need to unplug at times, and it can be a bear to deal with. Dealing with your social media is like dealing with it's a job in and of itself.
I saw something funny this morning. I don't remember who posted it, but it said something about 10, 20 years ago being plugged in and online was a luxury, and now the luxury is being able to be offline and unplugged.
Yep.
Me and my wife, we love cruising. One of the main reasons is we don't do the cell package. We don't do Wi-Fi, and we just tell everyone, sorry, we can't be reached. And she loves it because if we do anything on land, so to speak, I'm always kind of glancing at it. And there's always, they mean well. It's simple questions, but, just it's too frequent, or the email pops up. So I'm with you. I'd like to unplug more. I even tell my guys, I try to respect, we've got a lot of employees over there, and I tell them, I say, look, I'm not going to bother you unless it's a 911.
Yep.
And when they go on vacation or something, I mean, I make every effort in the world not to bug them, because I don't want anybody bugging me.
Yeah.
And so.
But that's another sign of good leadership, is the willingness to delegate and to trust your people and not have to check in on them all the time. when I was in office 9 years, I put my cell phone in the safe and told my executive assistant, call me if it's an emergency, and you know what an emergency is. 2 calls in 9 years, so I think we all can create emergencies.
Were you around on 9/11?
No, I was not, fortunately.
I was going to say, I figured that was one of the calls.
No, that was not one of the calls. Fortunately, I was not. That was long before my time. But still, I'll tell you, Justin, it has been a pleasure having you today. It's just always great to talk to you and to catch up with what you're working on. What's your main project right now?
Well, like many people in the industry, we're always dabbling 100 things. I mean, we've got scripts written in various stages of production. I guess main thing is Oak Film Co. I mean, that's just that's kind of what I do day to day, and we've got a lot of clients. I mean, big clients, little clients, international clients, and so that's just a lot of fun. I mean, we get to go all over. We get to make cool stuff, and when we, the business model is kind of like you do the client work because it makes everyone gets a salary, and then we save, and then we get to fund the passion projects. So we made a movie a couple years ago that had a lot of success. It got into 20 film festivals, multiple Oscar qualifiers, and so we kind of do the everyday work, and then we get to make a few passion projects throughout the year, and it's a blast. So
well, and I think you're having a positive through the Institute and just through all your efforts. You're having a very cool, positive impact on the world. So I appreciate what you do. I appreciate you, brother, and thank you for being my guest.
Likewise.
Dropping the mic, and we are out.